Don't mess with the IRS, my friends. So I'm getting a little bit of pushback. People challenging me on my 5-year rule for Roth conversion, and they might be right. I might be wrong. I don't think so. I don't think I am. And if I am, I'm happy to admit I'm wrong. But someone's reading of the tax code doesn't, especially when I'm reading it differently, doesn't jump out at me as something that says I'm going to say, yes, you're right, I'm wrong. Ugh. So let me give an example here. I got a couple examples. I'm underneath the age of 59 and a half. All right, 5 years have gone up since I did my last conversions. My 50,000 I converted has grown to 60,000. All right, so I know for a fact I have access to my 50,000 bucks. I know that for a fact. That is not in dispute. So any of you guys email me or putting comments on there, and I never said you don't have access to that money. I do. The question is, if my account is worth 60,000 bucks, do I have access to my principal, the converted amount, before I have access to my gains? I don't think you do. When you look at the ordering of distributions, I did a video on that on Saturday, it looks pretty clear to me, man, that the taxable stuff comes out first, then the non-taxable stuff comes out first. All right. That looks like to me. I'm just where I'm running with it. If I have a $60,000 5 years after I do my conversion, and I converted 50,000 bucks, I have $10,000 of gains. I do not believe I'm under the age of 59 and a half. I do not believe I can tell Schwab, give me my 50,000 bucks, that'll be penalty and tax free, and allow my gains to sit there until I'm over 59 and a half, where that will be penalty and tax free. I don't believe I can. A couple of you guys sent me various things that equate conversion amount with contributions. Oh boy, wow. Conversion amount with contributions. All right. I don't think those things are synonymous. I don't. And the reason they say this, that people are saying this, because we know you have access to your contributions before you can take your contributions out any time and leave your gains in there. No one disputes that. Question though is if taking a conversion, is that equatable to contributions? I.e., should I be able to access my 50,000 bucks and leave the $10,000 of gains there? I think that's a stretch. I do. And then on part two of that, people say, well, you have access to it. And I said, look, the distribution sequencing from the IRS 590 seems pretty clear to me. You have access to your first thing comes out is your pre-tax money, your taxable money, your pre-tax money. It's the same thing, the money you got to pay tax on. Anyway, if you want to go down, and this kind of reminds me of some of the biblical stuff here, is like people read the code differently, almost to prove a point. I think you're doing it wrong. I think what you want to do is read the code as if the IRS were was sitting over your shoulder there. Would the IRS want you to be able to convert 50,000 bucks 5 years later, have access to that $50,000 without taxes, without penalty, before you have access to your gains? I don't think they would. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think the IRS says, no, you can't touch your principal before you touch your gains. You can touch your principal on contributions before you touch your gains. To make the equation of contributions equals conversions, I just don't see that. I don't. And this reminds me of what my mom used to say. She used to practice before the IRS in Maine. She goes, oh, they're all easy to get along with. They're just regular people. What they did not like is the shenanigans. They don't like shenanigans and people finagling the tax code to try to avoid what they're supposed to pay. She used to tell me, if you make an honest mistake, that's fine. But if you're trying too hard to not pay your, quote, fair share, unquote, that's where they become ball breakers. And I must have been 16 when she said that or something like that. I can't remember. I must have been young because I remember thinking that. I said, okay, as long as you're reasonable, the IRS will be reasonable back at you. And I'm sure, look, I got a friend of mine, Jamie, who's a CPA, and she got audited, and she's as pure as the wind-driven snow, her and her husband, and that sucked for them. You know what I'm saying? I can't remember, but it's more to not more to the story like they're trying to do something. It's like, I think that rental, I can't remember what it was. The point being is, you got to look at it from the IRS's perspective. What are they trying? So basically, they take the stupid law that Congress passes and they try to manipulate that or massage that relative to what Congress wanted to do. That's what they're trying to do. I'm not here to defend the IRS. I'm just here to recognize from where they're coming. They're sitting there saying, Josh, we want you to have access to your money tax-free once you're 59 and a half. That's a fact. And you've had the account open for 5 years. I get that. We also know that your contributions to a Roth, you never took a tax deduction on ever. All right, so you have access to that principal for your gains. All right, I get that too. That's no one denies that. But if I'm the IRS, I say, yeah, but we don't want you to have access to your earnings. We don't want you to be able to get access to your principal on converted amount, because a conversion isn't a contribution until you pay the taxes and or penalty on the gains you made. That just seems, that's like an annuity, man. Annuity's LIFO, last in, first out. It makes sense to me. If you're going to try to beat the system, we're going to have to make it somewhat painful to do that. And the system on a Roth is simply 59 and a half in 5 years. If it's before 59 and a half in 5, it's going to be tough to have access to the bulk of your portfolio, in my opinion, because we're going to have to be LIFO, have to have the money come out first for which you have yet to be taxed on. And if I'm wrong on that, it's fine. But showing me a couple sections of the IRC, and I say, yeah, but my section says I read it differently. It doesn't convince me either way. But you can do whatever you want. Part 2 of this, just a guy emailed me right now. He's a retired self-practicing attorney. And he's like, man, I think I screwed up. I wanted to avoid taxes. And so I wasn't paying payroll tax, essentially, for himself. He's self-employed. He was taking a dividend off his income as opposed to making a 1099 or a W-2, like a salary. When you take a dividend as a self-employed person, you can do that to some degree, but that is the reddest flag of them all, man. The IRS says, okay, so the bulk of your income is from a dividend, which is not subject to FICA, which also means you're going to have a lower Social Security benefit. The bulk of your income is a dividend. Yeah. See, I don't understand that. I get what you're trying to do. You're trying not to pay the 15.5%, 15.3% FICA tax on your income. I'm self-employed. I don't take any dividends. I take it all salary. Why? Because I don't want to mess with the IRS. Again, the IRS is a force that is neither good nor bad. It just is. They are going to enforce the law as they see fit, that is what they're regulated to do. Whether or not you like it or not, I don't care. It is what it is. If you're trying too hard to avoid what they are interpreting the law, I think you're just making a mistake, dude. And I think that could be painful for you. I mean, I just do. Now, I have a friend of mine who works at the IRS. He goes, man, you don't take enough deductions. You're paying more than you need. I said, dude, it's not that much more. But I said, I get it. His name's Will. I said, well, I get it, man. He goes, look, man, we're not here to have you not take deductions. We're just, it's okay to take deductions as long as they're legit. But don't not take deductions because you're worried about being audited and stuff. So I don't, there's not much for me to deduct. Like in theory, I could deduct Pablo, I guess, because I could put Pablo, I got a picture of Pablo on the YouTube channel. I go, sorry, he's advertising. I mean, obviously I'm being facetious here. I'm not messing around with that, dude. I'm cautious when it comes to the IRS. I'd recommend you be cautious too. You might not be familiar with Lois Lerner, but she's familiar with you, just FYI. And just as an FYI, I just said that, just as an FYI, the last thing you want is that letter from the IRS saying, hey, we're auditing you. Come down to wherever and bring your tax returns and your statements and all that. You're like, yeah. And then show us where in the tax code you prove to us that you actually were able to take a dividend as opposed to salary on the vast bulk of your time of your income as a self-employed entrepreneur. Yikes! Or show us where in the tax code it says you have access to your contributions first. Okay, there's that. We know that. And then show us where it says conversion amount equals contributions. Yikes. The whole point about this is I've been thinking about this for a long time. I remember when I left Vanguard in 2000, I went to Schwab in 2000 for a couple years, and then I had $100,000 in my IRA, my 401k, which I rolled to an IRA. And I remember thinking this explicitly, clearly to me. I said, okay, what I can do is I can convert. This is literally what I thought. I'm not a rookie at this. I can convert the whole thing, $100,000, and then wait 5 years, and I'll have access to that $100,000. Oh wait, I was going to convert 25,000. That's what it was. I was going to convert 25,000 for the next 4 years in 2001. So that way, in 5 years, because we weren't making much money, dudes. We were hurting financially. So I said, and I don't want to pay the penalty, but I also know that I'm going to have to pay income tax on it. So I said, well, I'm going to just go ahead and pay the income tax on the conversion while my income's low. Wait 5 years, then I'll have access to that converted amount, free and clear. And if there's any gains, I'll just let those be. I remember thinking that like it was yesterday. And I said, I'll have a little bit of almost like a self-directed annuity, self-created annuity, 25,000. If I converted 4 in 25,000 increments, it'd be 25,000 from year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, because you have to wait 5 years per each. I knew that back then. I remember coming across a guy, I forgot who, I just don't remember who it was. So he had written some blog post on KITSIS, that wasn't KITSIS, Journal for Financial Planning, I can't remember what it was. And whatever I can't remember who it was. Reichenstein, it wasn't him, because is he a CPA? I can't remember. But it's some guy who does taxes, and he said, he wrote to me specifically. He basically said, Josh, I know you're thinking about this strategy. It ain't going to work. And I remember, I was like, what? I can't remember what it was. And I was like, oh, man, that blew me out of the water. I said, ow. Because I thought for sure I had a plan to beat the IRS at its own game. Just convert. And then I thought, too, I can't remember what it was. I had all these plans on how to finagle, shenanigans and finagle. Fananigans. I just created that. Fananigans. Yeah, shenanigans and finagle. The tax code. I'm going to use all these shenanigans in order to finagle the tax code. Fananigans. That's me right there. I remember thinking, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'll have access to my money, blah, 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 blah. Nope. I can't remember what the guys are who wrote. Maybe it was Keebler. I don't remember. But I just remember thinking, damn, I thought I was one up on the IRS. And you're never going to be one up on the IRS. Don't mess with them, dude. It ain't worth the time. Again, can you do it? Maybe. Probably. I don't know. Should you? I'm not making that recommendation. I'm always defaulting to give to Caesar what's Caesar, give to God what's God. So you give the IRS theirs first. And theirs first is what? Your contributions. You have access to those. We know that. Converted amount, I don't think you do. Certainly you don't have access to your gains tax-free and penalty-free until you're 59.5. Thus, I think the gains come out first. LIFO. That's my thinking. And if I'm wrong, I'm so be it, man. It's all good. But interpret the IRS tax code the way we interpret the Bible. There's lots of different interpretations there, my friends. And I think it behooves you to play the role of the IRS as an agent, as opposed to thinking that you have it all straightened in your head and think you know all the answers. I don't think you should do that when it comes to tax code. All right, love your thoughts. We'll see you.